oh goodness, what is it? The dungeon run?
I think it's just called Legendary Dungeon. No.
Whatever the dungeon run is, where you're going up against the AI bosses in sequence. Excited for that. I think that's going to be a good time. I'm a big fan of PvE content.
Yeah, I love roguelike games, so definitely looking forward to that. But now we have the game starting. The Rogue versus Priest. Rogue for Mitsuhide. Patches already in hand. And guys, we didn't miss the mulligan. It did start already before the mulligan. So unfortunately, we cannot say if Mitsuhide did keep his patches in hand or not.
Man, that would be some next level strategy, wouldn't it?
I wonder if there's ever a case of holding onto the patches. Maybe if your opponent plays only minions with 1 HP?
I mean, maybe. Maybe if your opponent's running a Magma Rager Priest.
Sick.
An anti-Divine Spirit Inner Fire Synergy Priest.
Alright, well, Prince Kalesev was played on 10-2 for Mitsuhide.
Yeah, I can't justify that one. Sorry, Lothar.
What?
Sorry, I can't justify that one.
Keeping patches in hand? I mean...
No.
Nah, never the case.
No. But that's okay.
Question from chat, I'm gonna answer right now. Are you a Dream Quest fan? Peter Wallen, well, my Dream Quest is also the creator behind the dungeon one. Yes, obviously, I play Dream Quest on my iPad pretty often. I was pretty excited to meet Peter Wallen at Gamescom last year. We did talk about Dream Quest a lot.
Is Peter Whalen the developer doing the stream with Kibler?
Yes.
Okay. That is what I thought.
He's a cool guy.
Oh, that would make sense.
And his game is actually pretty cool as well. So if you want to get some hands-on experience with his creation, Dream Quest is available on iPads.
Very cool.
Alright, well, let's focus on the game now. RDU seems to have a decent hand right now. He has Raza on 10-5 and Anduin already on 8. So that will allow him to get the potential burst on the board as soon as possible. Now what he needs to just to do is to survive till that point. And he's not doing bad in that regards.
Nah, he's hanging on pretty well, and he does have, of course, a fantastic priest curve. Raza on 5, Anduin on 8, with the priest of the face for some survival potential. The Akanai, if he's able to pick up Circle, is going to be a really nice clear. And it does help that Mitsuhide's hand is not awesome. He's missing any development for that, any real development for that 5 turn. So RDU's managed to stave off the early aggression pretty well.
I really like the Akanai Soul Priest play on 4, since he knows that he 100% gonna play Raza on turn 5. So if the Akanai still gets to live till that turn, he will have a free smite in the upcoming turn, which will most likely help to clear the agent that will attack into the Tar Creeper, because it will be on 1 HP, so in range of the hero power, and that will build up the small tempo gains over the course of time.
Mitsuhide just needs to figure out how to build and maintain board control. RDU doesn't actually have any AoE right now, so if Mitsuhide takes a commanding lead, RDU doesn't have any way to stave off that aggression. Unfortunately, not many options for Mitsuhide this turn. It just needs to be the Saronite Chain Gang, and RDU will now have the ability to clear off the SI7 agent with the hero power, which he will now have for free every turn off of the Raza.
Slightly the situation is going in favor of RDU now, and that will be the case when we will be going into the late game. Even with, you know, small potential for card draw, the priest deck has a bigger value in general than the rogue, even with the buff from the Kalesev. So, especially with the patches in hand, right? This is actually a really big thing for for RDU when he will notice it. I don't believe there was a single pirate played yet, but after the captain will get played, and I believe it will happen this turn, he will get a lot of info.
Yeah, there are some very nice draws for RDU, but even if he whiffs over the next couple of turns, maybe picks up Potion of Madness or Silence, just some low-cost spells that he can't make great use out of, he can still combine those with Priest of the Feast to extend his own life total, and then Shadow Reaper Anduin on turn 8 will prey on anything that's been buffed by Bone Mare, anything that's been buffed by Cold Blood. It's just going to hit really, really effectively on turn 8 and cut down whatever Mitsuhide has after RDU keeps this mid-game in check with just his board, which is kind of unusual for Priest. It can be difficult for them to do that.
Galactic Crawler is such a swingy card, right? It's incredible that cards like that, like big, Big Game Hunter, an example, Galactic Crawlers, all the crabs actually, have such an impact on the game. An example, Big Game Hunter got nerfed till the moment when it's not actually a playable minion by its own mana curve, right?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that will happen at some point of the game to Galactic Crawler as well, to be an example of free mana minion.
Yeah, or Galactic Crawler having the stats of Hungry Crab. I don't know. I mean, but then you have Hungry Crab as a 1-mana card. It's also a little bit more niche, whereas Pirates are much more universal. You can play them in pretty much every tempo deck.
Well, it can still be balanced out by the fact that Pirates might just go out of the metagame, right?
Yeah, that's true. Pirates, some of them will be rotating, some of them may just get a little bit weaker depending on whatever the new expansion may be. We don't have a clear picture of the cards that we're going to be getting for the next expansion, but you're absolutely right. Galactic Crawler being a 2-3 on its own, being playable on its own, on curve, and not being detrimental, it just seems a little bit too strong when it actually hits. But then again, it's a tech choice that can be really ineffective in a lot of scenarios, so there's benefits and drawbacks of everything naturally.
Yep. The fact that that Alkanai Soul Priest is still alive since turn 4 is incredible for RDU. The amount of value that he's gaining from that, like turn 5 Smite, turn 6 Smite, turn 7 Smite for 0 mana, basically. So that's virtually 3 cards gained and 3 mana gained by just having the Alkanai alive from turn 4. But that's it for game 1. I mean, no surprise, right? Mitsuhide didn't draw that well, while RDU hit really a nice curve. Usually there are some games in every single card game that just, kind of happen like this. Just one player can't really do much. Mitsuhide tried his best, but he was falling apart from the beginning of the game.
Yeah, Mitsuhide really at the mercy of his curve there. RDU just... Sometimes you hit the nuts. If you're Azaka's Priest, yeah, your deck can be a little bit consistent, but your game plan is so strong, and when you do hit Raza on 5, Anduin on 8, and you get the very little mid-game that the deck does have access to, sticking that Akanai was massive, and RDU just ran away with it.
So now, just to reiterate, we do play Conquest. I mean, the players do play in the Conquest format of best of 5. So now RDU did lock his Priest, and he will be left with Warlock and Rogue. If I know RDU well, he's gonna just pick the Warlock right now, get a quick win with the Zoo, and just, switch to another deck with the same type of gameplay, which will be the Rogue. It's kind of funny that the Rogue is now currently more Zoo-ish than Zoo, I would say, even.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Rogue even just hits the board faster than Zoo right now. Zoo is, of course, a lot heavier than it used to be. A lot more late game oriented with double Bone Mares, with Blood Reaver Gul'dan, with Doom Guards. Some are even running Cairn and Lich King. Whereas Rogue really, really lives or dies by that 1-2-3 curve. Zoo has a little bit more flexibility than it used to.
Alright, this time opening hand for Mitsuhide is a bit better than before, as a decent opener with Firefly turn 1, Dark Creeper on turn 3 is amazing against Zoo, and for RDU, this time he has the patches in the opening hand.
That's rough.
And 2 Doom Guards. That's something that you never want to see, right? At the same time, he's playing Warlock, so he can live tap on turn 2, which is not terrible. But in general, this is not looking great.
The fact that Rogue is maybe even faster than Zoo Warlock right now means that Zoo really needs to fight to keep up. Zoo does have a little bit of an advantage in that the early Zoo minions life totals do trade pretty favorably into the early minions from Mitsuhide. So RDU with this Voidwalker is going to have, you know, nice stat lineups into the deckhand and the patches. Malchezaar's Imp as well is really nice into the opening 1 mana, 2 mana cards from Mitsuhide. But RDU's just kind of bricked here. This is a really, really rough opening start with the double Doom Guards.
When you think about it, the Cold Blood actually is not a bad play right now. The only way of Warlock removing that patches would be a Mortal Coil, and I don't believe that RDU has a Mortal Coil in this deck. No, there's only a Soulfire. So basically the Soulfire would have to kill it. Otherwise, that's still a 5-1 next turn.
Well, at least drawing patches is going to net Mitsuhide. Oh, he didn't draw patches this game. What am I talking about? Drawing patches in the last game is going to net Mitsuhide some favor in this one. This is definitely tough. Mitsuhide has the advantage of the Dagger hero power, which will make his trades a little bit cleaner. RDU does not have that same ability, unfortunately, so you're absolutely right. Cleaning off the patches is going to be... it's just going to force a trade.
No, will be no even no trade, right? By developing the Dark Creeper, he just puts a huge line of defense for that patches, so the only way of killing that would be a Soulfire now, and RDU needs to dig for it. Otherwise, he might just be dead in 2 turns, basically. This is just such a rough situation for RDU.
It's more pressure than he could have handled. Yeah, there's the Cairn. And Zoo is still a really low curve deck. It's a lot, you know, mid-rangier than it used to be, but it's still very unusual that you get a start this heavy.
Yep, 2 Flame Imps, Malchezaar Imps, Bloodsuckers, Acres, Veterans, and then you have Prince Kalesev, and then turn 3 happen, right? So you have Dark Creeper, Captain, Darkshire Concealments. So it's not that turn 1, turn 2 heavy because of the Kalesev, but at the same time, yeah, drawing 2 Doom Guards and a Cairn till this point of the game is not really the best outcome. But at the same time, we can say the same about Mitsuhide in the previous game, so I guess that's, you know, evens it out, and the players just start with 1-1.
Yeah. This is a reversal of fortune. RDU with a very good start in the last game, Mitsuhide with a very good one in this game. That's the nature of Hearthstone for you.
Honestly, nature of every single card game.
Yeah, I mean...
Ooh!
People harp on RNG and randomness and draw order, but it's not just exclusive to Hearthstone. That is every card game that has ever been created.
Alright, so good trades from Mitsuhide. He didn't want to pressure RDU right now because he did anticipate that a single Doom Guard, would actually be such a tough minion to deal with. And would actually with a cycle from the Malchezaar Imp, also allow RDU to be still, you know, ahead on the board if he manages to maintain the card advantage in his hand. So very good play by Mitsuhide.
And RDU getting rather low in life, but needs to continue life tapping, needs to continue finding resources. He can start to build this board back up a little bit with the Flame Elemental Vilespine. Nothing he plays is going to stick. And Mitsuhide is just likely going to have enough pressure with whatever he draws to close this one out over the course of the next couple of turns.
Especially the tempo gain from Vilespine Slayer, even the first one, right? It's just massive against Zoo, or in general against any minion-based deck.
Yeah.
And at some
Absolutely.
point, he will get to draw
Next.
another 1 or 2, or even 3 mana card, because he will be getting to a point where he can just combo anything, basically, with the second Vilespan Slayer. So it looks really rough. If he will be able to stick 1 minion, and then just clear minions every single turn with those 2 Vilespan Slayers, he will be able to dish out that 12 damage in a known time. Seems like Flame Elemental, Vilespan Slayer, the Voidwalker, and Pressure for 4 damage to the face.
Yeah, there's that, or there's the Flame Elemental and the Cobalt and just trade over the Vilespine, but this is stronger on board. This forces the Kaliseth into the Firefly anyway, and you're not quite representing lethal yet, but there are a lot of outs for Mitsuhide next turn. Bone Mares, Cold Bloods, etc.
4 damage already on board. RDU is on 3 HP. Wow. Shadow Step is an incredible tool for having a Vilespine on the board already. But for now, he's just gonna commit to another minion, just pressure face, and leave the ball on RDU's side of the board, basically. RDU needs to find answer.
No need to... Yeah, no need to get rid of this Cairn. Cairn can only hit 1 target, just represent, you know, more bodies on board. Anything gets through with your weapon, with the Shadow Step and the Vilespine, you can get down a taunt. And RDU can't play 2 copies of Sarnite Chain Gang this turn, so game's over, unfortunately, for him.
So, I would say that if Mitsuhide wouldn't trade with the Malkazar Imp on the turn 4, it could have been actually a different game. He was ahead the entire time from the beginning of the game because RDU was just falling apart in the turn 1 to 3. But if he would manage to keep, in example, the second Doomguard from the discard, or not hit it and or hit the Doomguard but still get another impactful card from the Malkazar Imp cycle, maybe the game would have changed. And in example, he would have had that Soulfire earlier in the game and take the benefit of having a tempo gain from a Soulfire on turn 6, an example, when he was able to kill the buffed Flame Elemental. So that was a very impactful decision by Mitsuhide, and kudos to him for doing that, because he was aware that he's ahead, but he took the safer route to accomplish something that is sometimes very important. You just don't need to pressure too much when you know you're too much ahead to lose the game. So you play against the only scenario that can lose you the game.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There were a couple of turns in there where it seemed like RDU had the ability to potentially stabilize. Had he had that second Doomguard, I think it would have been a lot closer than it was. But RDU's opener that game was just really, really incredibly weak. And now we are going to be getting the reversal of the first matchup. RDU going to be on his rogue, Mitsuhide bringing out his own priest.
Well, RDU definitely not drawing good cards. Oh, never mind.
He found a good one. He found the best one, actually. Missing the turn 1 against Priest is kind of rough, but Priest has a tendency to have Potion of Madness on turn 1 anyway, so a Swashbuckler likely wouldn't get through for much damage, and Patch's post-Kaliseth is just better in general. So RDU is still going to be living off the top of his deck for a couple of turns, but Kaliseth is going to make things a lot easier.
And another Patches, by the way.
Never mind. Never mind.
I mean, it's still okay. He got to Kaliseth with a Shadow Step, which is pretty insane. Of course, it would be more insane if that Patches would have been any different card.
Yeah. RDU's having a bit of a tough time these last couple of games.
Well, it's the difference between having a 3-drop on the board for 0 mana and 0 card advantage, or not having it, and having a 1/1 charge minion in hand. So it's pretty significant change.
Yeah, RDU definitely losing out on a lot of damage potential, and drawing very heavily again. This is not the average curve for a rogue deck. Certainly not what he's wanting to see.
Also, the problem is that he has Leroy in his hand, so Leroy as a finisher in this deck doesn't get buffed by the double Kalestev. So it's still gonna be a 6 attack minion and not an 8 attack minion.
Yeah, good point. That's a big miss as well. We're even seeing a lot of the rogue decks run multiple copies of Argent Commander because getting the buff on charge minions is so valuable. But RDU is electing to go with a list with a copy of Shadowblade. Really nice in the mirror. Strictly better than Fiery War Axe in just about every single way now. So much so that we saw Dr. Jikaninki playing 2 copies of Runeforge Haunter in his rogue to really try and leverage the Shadowblade as much as possible.
Which might be pushing it a little bit too far, right?
It's taking it to the extreme, certainly. RDU just going with 1 copy of Shadowblade because, again, really good in the mirror, really good against Zoo, and having that little bit of extra damage push is never a bad thing.
Merculix, no, he didn't double Shadow Step the Kalestev. It was just 1 Shadow Step.
Yes, correct. So everything just buffed by +2/+2.
By taking the Shadow or Death, what is very important is that now there are more targets for Shadow or Death in this matchup. Since there's +2/+2 on every single minion, everything that has 3 attacks suddenly became vulnerable to the Shadow or Death.
Yep, SIs, captains, now are all in death range. Granted, you don't really want to use death on them when you would much rather death a Cobalt Scalebane, for instance, and set up a Dragonfire Potion kill onto those 3 drops now. But that also means that Shadow Reaper Anduin is going to be that much more potent later on.
Cobalt on turn 5 is never bad, but at the same time, when you have every single minion almost with the same stats for less mana, it's not ideal, right? But what this gives to Mitsuhide is the information that this was the card from the beginning of the game. So there's only 2 more cards left in the hand that were kept from the mulligan phase. That is important information.
Mitsuhide with his free hero power online, so both players cheating the mana just a little bit with what they've got available to them. RDU by buffing his own minions, Mitsuhide with the free hero powers, he's going to weave in every turn. But RDU now has stuck this Cobalt Scalebane, and if Mitsuhide clears this, which I expect he will, via that Shadow or Death that he pulled, RDU's follow-up is really, really weak.
Is it? Is that 7 mana, 7/7 minion, so it's not terrible, but it definitely could have been better.
It's War Golem Horse. Not bad.
Dr. War Golem Horse.
You'd like to have the +1. Yeah, Dr. War Golem
He just needs small horses on the side.
His little pony companions. Blizzard,
My
get
death
on it.
ponies.
This is a genius thought.
Well, honestly, any other minion that he draws would probably gonna get better than that Bone Mare. The problem is that if it's just a 1-drop or a 2-drop, he will be really inefficient with his mana, so he might even commit to just Leroy Jenkins with a 2-drop. Oh my god. Alright, that's pretty terrible.
Ugh. This is rough. I mean, the Leroy is not buffed. It was in hand when Kalestev is played, so that's just a 6/2.
I think I would actually commit to just Leroy, trade with the 1/1 with the dagger, and just go face for 6 damage.
Man, it feels
Yeah,
bad,
but
though.
then you have at least a chance to top deck a 1/1, sorry, a 1-mana minion in the upcoming turn, and because of that, you have access to Bone Mare buff, which is worth a lot.
Yeah, that's true. If you pick up Firefly or Swashbuckler. We haven't seen either Swashbuckler yet.
That was the only minion he actually did draw from since beginning of the game. What? How many spells does he has left?
Kalestev was played on turn 2.
So backstep. There's still 1 Shadow Step left, and 1 backstep, if I remember correctly. And everything else from now on will be a minion.
His minions. Yeah.
Unless he draws the Shadow Step
Maybe
next turn,
one
which will
Cold
be hilarious.
I mean, Mitsuhide doesn't have an easy way to clear this unless he commits the Shadow Word Death, which means that the Bone Mare has a possibility to stick. And it seems like Mitsu also is a little bit hesitant to commit a lot of his spells in hand because he's got Lyra alongside him. He would like to get the value out of Lyra if he can, but does he even need it is the question. RDU's only got 1 card in hand. Mitsu doesn't necessarily need, you know, 4 or 5 random priest spells. What he's got is probably enough.
I agree. Ooh. Well, that is a decent-sized minion, I would say. Currently 7 HP, so it does live through the board state. And I think that that's the best play you can actually do right now. Although it's mana inefficient, but it does trade with the Talon Priest, and it's most likely able to survive the onslaught on the next turn.
It's your best option for landing Bone Mare on something before turn 10.
Yep.
And right now, RDU doesn't really have the liberty to be greedy. He doesn't have the resources for it. He just kind of needs to hope that Mitsuhide doesn't have answers. Unfortunately, Priest usually has the answers.
Another Shadow Word Death, are you kidding me? Holy moly.
Yeah, that's about par for the course. This was a really rough one for
And a
RDU.
Mind Vision on the Bone Mare. Wait, will it be 7/7? Because it's a copy, right?
I don't know, actually. More than anything, now Mitsuhide knows exactly what RDU has.
I never had this situation with the Mind Vision, so I'm actually curious if it's 7/7 or not. Oh my god.
Let's find out what chat says. Chat says it's a 5/5.
Well, do you believe them?
I never know what to believe.
Yeah, I never believed the Twitch chat.
But I know the one time that I don't listen to chat, they're going to be right, and I'm going to look even dumber than usual.
Alright, well, it's 2-1 for Mitsuhide. RDU is on a brink of elimination. While Mitsuhide is on a, one step closer to making it to the semi-finals.
Yeah, Mitsuhide with a really nice showing in this tournament. RDU still not out of it. He needs to find wins with that Warlock and with that Rogue. And Mitsuhide is left just with, well, what is his final deck is the
He
question.
won with Priest, he won with the Rogue.
One with
that
Rogue.
means he's left with the Warlock.
Yes, because both Druids were banned. Okay, so Mitsuhide's Warlock was actually kind of his Achilles heel yesterday. He's opted for a build that is a little bit more aggressive, but he doesn't have Blood Reaver Gul'dan. Instead, he has a copy of Glacial Shard. So it's a little bit different than what RDU has, but it's still, at heart, just a Zoo deck, which is strong enough to beat just about anything.
Yeah. I mean, the Gul'dan is a fantastic card, but most of the games are actually being finished before turn 10, so you don't even have an occasion to play it, right? Why he does run the Glacier Shard is to gain crucial tempo in those important matchups where board control, when it's all about board control, right? So an example, against another Warlocks, against Rogues, especially against Rogues, when they have their own backstabs, an additional freeze effect might be the push that you need to deal the lethal damage at some point. It's also important against decks that play one big minion, so an example, Big Druid is pretty significant, when you can just skip a Deathwing attack for one turn, example. So I like the addition of the Glacier Shard, but at the same time, is it worth it?
Yeah, I mean,
no one knows.
It seems like a rather insignificant card when you look at the effectiveness and the impact that Blood Reaver Gul'dan has. Blood Reaver Gul'dan can win you matchups that you should not have won. Glacial Shard improves the overall goal of your deck, but then you sacrifice the ability to beat control decks sometimes. So Mitsuhide has taken away that late game potential and decided that he just wants to do what Zoo does best and do it a little bit better than his opponent. If his opponent is playing Zoo as well, if he's in a mirror and his opponent has Blood River Gul'dan in hand early and Mitsuhide has a Glacial Shard, which is actually a playable and useful card, Mitsuhide is going to have a small advantage. So that's really what the idea is there. He just wants to give himself a little bit of chance to do what his opponent does, but better.
Alright. Decent opening hand for both players, actually. RDU this time with the coin, so he's able to combo out the agent, which is the bread and butter since Tempo Rogue times in beta. Whew.
Oh wow, the flaming buff the top Mitsuhide's got a perfect 1-2 curve. And RDU's hand is significantly better than he had last game, but still lacking the Kaliseth, lacking Backstab. Backstab would just absolutely shore this up for him right now. But even still, Coin SI7 Agent will kill off the Flame Imp, give him a little bit of breathing
I'm actually
room.
not sure about the Coin Agent this time. Maybe Talk Creeper is actually better.
Okay, good point. Challenges both of the Flame Imps, and Mitsuhide's only real counter would be Soulfire in hand.
Soulfire with patches would be like the best option. So I'm actually not sure. I think it's a close call. But sorry, I had to mute myself because my cat was meowing.
What's your cat's name?
Well, I have two cats. One is named Jabba, which means frog in English, and the other one is actually has the same name as me, which is my real name. But when he got adopted, he actually had that name already. So, you know.
That's funny. My cat's named Radar.
Radar? Really? How come?
Yeah, we adopted him with the name. We didn't pick
Okay,
it.
so the same case.
Gonna keep chat guessing as to whose cat's meowing.
Two patches. Who played the Kaliseth?
Mitsuhide played South Sea Captain.
I know. I'm just joking.
Sorry.
When you think about it,
They both wish they could have played Kaliseth.
the captain is like a very small Kaliseth right now. And he's dead.
He's a much more consistent Kaliseth. You can run 2 of them. But they only hit your patches. Oh, hey, there's another one. That's actually an incredible draw
Yeah,
from
it is.
Mitsuhide.
The fact that he can kill the agent right now is wowzy impactful.
Just the fact that he picks something up that he can keep filling out his curve with. If Mitsuhide ever misses a turn, RDU will likely capitalize on that. Same goes for RDU. If he ever misses a turn, Mitsuhide will capitalize. So both of these guys, this is a battle for the board through and through in the early turns until one of them definitively takes a lead. Then you'll start to see some damage push. But for now, this game is not about hit and face. This isn't a Smork matchup. This is a board-centric matchup.
Mm-hmm. The problem is that RDU didn't hit a single backstep yet, which is, I think, one of the most important cards in this matchup to gain that tempo that you're losing to Zoo, usually, right? And with cards like Agents, he was able to kind of squeeze it a little bit further down the line, but he still needs more and more tempo gain. So having the Viceman Slayer is a good step, but it might be too little too late. I don't know how is that possible, but RDU has one of the worst draws I have ever seen.
Yeah, he's really defied the odds with how poor his draws have been in these last couple of games.
So many options.
I I think he just needs to commit to another Kobold. Basically, though with the same... What was the same play against the Priest. Actually, that's pretty smart.
I mean, the Slayer coming down, getting the clear on the... Yeah, this is fine. Takes the largest threat off of Mitsuhide's board. RDU challenges Mitsuhide's board as well as he possibly can. We can see, obviously, the Soulfire is going to get an easy clear on the Vile Spine here. And Mitsuhide is likely just going to fit in a tap. And now RDU, again, is left with the same problem he had last game, where he has some of his top end, but he hasn't found the Swashbucklers, right? He hasn't found the Firefly. He hasn't found his early game minions that he's able to, one, stick on board and combine with Cobalt, Scalebane, and Bone Mirror to turn them into threats, or just out-tempo Mitsuhide in the early game.
Well, slowly now he will be able to grind it out. Because now the Bone Mirror next turn is actually gonna swing the board. Let's think about it. If you would not use the Vine Spire lesson, because I thought that might not be the correct play, but it actually seems like it's way better, because now the Kobold is actually able to buff something that has immediate effect on the board. And usually that doesn't happen when you don't have a minion that has a taunt keyword. So that was actually a fantastic play by RDU there.
He's really great at partitioning his resources. And, I mean, obviously he's played to what he's gotten a little bit, but that Shadow Blade is going to be really impactful in this matchup, much like in the Mirror. It's just really fantastic against other aggressive decks, and it does seem like RDU now has turned the corner. So even though I may even consider Zoo to be slightly favored in this matchup, because it does have a little bit more stability, RDU has built up a board that is so threatening that Mitsuhide just doesn't have the resources really to deal with it. Although this Soulfire is certainly going to help.
Do you remember the times where the Soulfire was for 0 mana?
I do. I do.
That was mad crazy.
It's terrifying.
So from what have looked like a lost position for Mitsuhide, now was quickly turned around by the single Soulfire with the combination of Despicable Dreadlord, which was basically an insane outcome for Mitsuhide. A small Nova for 1 damage changed the entire outcome of the game.
And now not only does RDU have resource advantage, but he's going to have pretty significant board lead with this Cairn. Mitsuhide does not have Blood Reaver Gul'dan. So there again is his decision to play Glacial Shard over Blood Reaver maybe coming back to bite him a little bit. If he can't get ahead in the early game significantly, now he doesn't have that late game panic button. And I don't think Glacial Shard's going to win him the game at this point.
Let's assume the Glacial Shard should have been the Gul'dan, and let's see if he gets to draw it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it may not have mattered anyway.
Well, better late than never, like Jack Nicholson, but still, rough for Mitsuhide. Now, those draws will be less impactful, even with the bust from the color set, will be less impactful than what RDU will be most likely drawing, since he has more endgame than the Warlock.
I mean, if Mitsuhide doesn't start picking up Doom Guards and Bone Mirrors, he just won't have anything that will stick on board going forward. And the Vile Spine Slayer now is a guaranteed clear on this Despicable Dreadlord if RDU wants to save his Cairn, which I would think that he would. So RDU here is going to take a distinct board lead, and I don't think he's going to relinquish it throughout the rest of this game.
I'm thinking why Mitsuhide tapped first before playing Kalesev, because there's not a single card that costs more. Well, Bonemer, okay, that's the only thing.
Yeah, he was tapping for
Okay,
bone
so
there.
that was his only out, basically.
Picks up his own Cairn. Actually, Shard here would be really good. Doomguard instead. Unfortunately, I have to relinquish that Cairn, but Doomguard's much more valuable to get on board now. The question is, though, where is it going?
Well, he can.
I mean, you can clear the Cairn.
Right? With a second Doomguard.
He could push. Yeah, he could push 8 here. He could also clear the Cairn with the Firefly and Flame Elemental, and then clear the Bane with the Doomguard. Does Mitsuhide think that he can win the game by just clearing everything that RDU has?
I don't think there's ever a position when he can win from that. So pushing face seems like the best decision.
Yeah, he agrees.
Now RDU needs to make a decision. How do I deal with that situation on board, right? And he needs to kill the Doomguard and at least one minion to avoid a 6 attack Doomguard being played. Another possibility would be, unfortunately for him, a Acros Veteran that will deal the 8 damage with one remaining minion.
Yeah, that's true. This isn't removing, obviously, the Doomguard off the top, life tapped into Soulfire Acros Veteran outs, but there's nothing that RDU can do to prevent that, so he's just not going to play around it. I believe both Soulfires may actually have already been played to remove.
Yes. Oh, that's good done.
So it... Oh, that would have been really good if it was cooled on. Yeah, that would have been Doomguard. Huh. That's a bit of a bummer. Glacial Shard can allow Mitsuhide to survive for one more turn. Can he stick anything here, though? The Sea Devil Stinger goes into the Voidwalker. Kaliseth trades over. Yeah, Mitsuhide's still going to need to pick up Doomguard and Acros Veteran to finish this game.
Well, he didn't discard any cards, if I remember correctly, this turn, this game. So RD will not benefit from the Dinomancer.
I am the courageous Dinomancer.
Alright, well...
Alright, one more shot. Mitsuhide needs...
He needs exactly Doomguard into Veteran to win the game. And Bornemer is not
That's
enough.
not
But
it.
one drop would make him survive? No. Well,
No.
it was close.
Close, but...
No cigar, right?
No cigar. Yep, RDU going to tie up this series 2-2, and we're going to game number 5. It's going to be a Warlock Mirror. Slightly different lists, but both doing pretty much the exact same thing in the early game.
But because of that slight change of having Gul'dan in RDU's list, because of that he might be even more committed to controlling the board space. Because in this matchup it's all about who sticks the minion first, right? And then who gets the benefit of having Bonmer onto a minion and then a trade in the same time. But when one player has access to the Gul'dan while the other doesn't, makes the late game way different.
It does change the late game quite significantly, but it means that Mitsuhide will have one more interaction in the early game. He will have that Glacial Shard to potentially shut down, I don't know, any minion that has trade potential from RDU that he doesn't want to capitalize on that, right? So Mitsuhide will want to be dictating the trades and then shutting down some potential from RDU with that Glacial Shard. He doesn't even want RDU to get to the late stage of the game, right? Blood Reaver Gul'dan can be very useful in the mirror, but that's not where it's best. You don't usually get to turn 10 and not have one of the players be significantly ahead on board or have the game be already over. But looking at these opening curves, RDU with that Flame Imp off the draw means that he's going to have a really nice 1-2. Mitsuhide picks up the patches, but he is on the coin, so he'll have that little bit of reprieve. Pretty straightforward turn for RDU, I would say. The Malchezaar's Imp Soulfire was also a consideration. I'm gonna have to check if Mitsuhide is running Blood Fury potions, because that would be absolutely a reason why you'd want to consider Soulfiring the Malchezaar's Imp. Because Mitsuhide is on the coin, he could have played it this turn. One moment.
So this is the fifth game in this match, and we already have seen 3 times patches.
Yeah, okay, so Mitsuhide doesn't have Blood Fury Potion. He's running Darkshire Councilman's instead. So there wasn't the option for coin Blood Fury there, which means that RDU did not have to go ahead and Soulfire that turn.
Well, this can escalate pretty early. The saving grace for Mitsuhide might be that Despicable Dreadlord at some point of the game. But that means he will get actually a lot of damage, so he needs to commit to the board early on. I would say the Consulman would be a fantastic play this turn, but unfortunately with just 1 attack, it doesn't clear the Flame Imp, and that's the target for him right now. He needs to clear the Flame Imp as soon as possible. Oof, yeah, that's the commitment. Oh, fantastic! He did get to discard the coin instead of any significant minion from his hand. So that was the best possible outcome for him. But it was a risky play, but he had to do that. As I said before, the Flame Imp was the target for him.
Very, very nice from Mitsuhide there. Still behind on board, but he does have some really impactful cards in hand to be able to get him back in the game. Tark Reaper, for instance, just challenges everything on board as is. Potentially forces out a Soulfire. We can see that RDU has that Blood Reaver Gul'dan in hand. It is susceptible to being discarded.
But he can always play time. It's still far away from Bonmer, so in this case he's not really worried about the Tark Reaper that is just being left on the board, so he can play time. He can just wait till he has more minions that can survive an actual attack into the Tark Reaper, or maybe even tap next turn and go for a risky Soulfire. But honestly, I don't know if the Soulfire would be a correct play, since that Gul'dan might be a win condition just on his own. If he just slams it, he might just win it straight away.
That's really risky.
But
sometimes you're forced to. In this case, he's not forced to yet.
But he's forced to kill the Tark Reaper right now. So he needs to sacrifice the Flame Imp. He still has a commanding lead on the board. And it's not terrible. Definitely not terrible. The Despicable Dreadlord now for Mitsuhide needs to be played to take some value with it. To the chat, why RDU's card are added to the left? It's because it's just a flipped image of the spectator mode that we see. It's not his hand on the bottom, it's just his hand on the upper side of the screen that is being flipped vertically.
I wonder if...
Alright, well, now RDU needs to do something about the Despicable Dreadlord, because that's not a card that you can leave just lying around. But even with the Veteran, the Councilman only goes to 3 attacks, so that's not enough. If he taps, he has 4 mana left, so drawing a 3 mana or less minion, he will be able to take care of that. Whew. Commitment to a Kern. So,
I mean, it's difficult to remove. Karen is in these decks a lot of the time because it ensures that you land a Bone Mare on 7. It's very, very difficult for anybody to remove both the Cairn and the Bane at one time.
mm-hmm.
So many possibilities.
Well, if that bomber gets discarded, that's a big problem, and it did get discarded. Whoops.
That's unfortunate. Had to go for it, though.
So far we had seen Flamen being killed from RDU's side and a Voidwalker. And I don't believe in any other demons, so now the the Malkazar Imp might join those ranks in the future turn. Ooh, patch is being drawn. Well, unfortunate.
Yeah, we seem to be seeing a lot of that.
Now Mitsuhide would actually wish that he has a patches in hand.
Never thought I'd hear that, but... Yeah, Mortal Coil would be significantly better, but patches would get the job done, wouldn't it?
Definitely. Alright, well, it's coming closer and closer to that turn 10 when RDU will just body slam the Gul'dan and just, you know, steal the win, basically. So at this point, what he just needs to do is make sure that he doesn't discard the Gul'dan. Oh my god, this is gonna get close. Woo! Was close.
Nailed it.
Doesn't matter what else is being discarded, the Gul'dan needs to stay in hand.
Yeah, I mean, this one's gone back and forth a little bit, but... While the Gul'dan is the final nail in the coffin, look at RDU's board position right now compared to Mitsuhide's. Mitsu just doesn't have anything left. Doomguard's a pretty nice pickup. Alright.
Yeah, it is.
I'll take it. It's quite good. The Blood River Gul'dan will seal this one up.
I mean, it would have been an even game if that Gul'dan would have been discarded. With that draw from Mitsuhide right now. Right? Because it evens it out. They are on similar life totals, so Mitsuhide can still... tap and get 2 cards per turn. So if we were to get a second Bonemer at some point in the game, could have been enough to swing it. I think he needs to trade with the Bonemer just to save his potential HP. Because... I'm not sure, actually.
Playing it a bit more greedy. I mean, this forces the Bone Mare trade anyway, but what does Mitsuhide really have left? He doesn't have Gul'dan. His own Bone Mare would be quite good. Instead, picks up 2 pretty insignificant minions.
It seems. I don't want to, you know, to be too fast, or too slow, as RDU would say. And... say anything about this match, but it looks like RDU will finish the reverse sweep. I mean, not... well, okay, a reverse sweep with 2 matches in a row, basically.
Yeah, I mean, coming back from a deficit.
Yeah. The Gul'dan is just a nail in the coffin. Look at Mitsuhide's face, he knows what's up. Even with a...
G2's dreams...
Still alive.
Still alive.
Oh, man. I mean, even with Gul'dan... not summoning a single demon would have been enough in my opinion because the hero power is so powerful, just on its own.